Hello students, welcome to Preliminary Chemistry and the Chemical Earth series. In this particular video we're going to be trying to link some of the properties of elements with their uses. Now we've sort of briefly looked at the variety of elements and the way that we use the symbols to denote those elements, but what we want to do now is to try and find out exactly why they're distributed the way they are on the periodic table and how we have used our knowledge about elements as we've discovered more of them to put them to use. And the main thing we need to do is to try and see if we can use some examples to link the properties of elements with the uses that we've made of them. And that's because metals and non-metals differ in terms of their properties and also the positions in the periodic table. The metals are all located on the left of the table and the non-metals are all located over on the right. And there's sort of like a grading system as we go from the left to the right across. These principles, these properties are important for us to identify these particular types of uses, and the groupings that we've used for our periodic table exist because of some of those common properties that exist within similar elements. So firstly, if we look at metals, metals are good conductors of both heat and electricity. And the fact that metals are also ductile, and the word ductile means can be drawn into a wire. The two properties of conductivity and ductility make many metals very suitable for use as wires. So copper, which is the most common one that we find in our homes, silver and gold can all be used for electrical wires and connections. And there may even be just a little bit of gold in your mobile phone. In the construction industry, metals are used there because of their high density and their hardness, particularly some alloys. One of the alloys of, we'll look at alloys a little bit later, but one of the alloys of iron is steel, and steel is definitely used in the construction of bridges, buildings, and also in methods of transportation, cars, buses, and so on, trains. The important thing here is that the fact that they have a high density, they're hard, and also the fact that they are malleable, and malleable means they can be shaped. It usually refers to being hit with a hammer, but it just means that their shape can be changed without them cracking, and that means that we can make them into all sorts of different shapes, and with their high density and hardness, that makes them excellent for the construction industry. Metals are also used for cookware. Again, this time the conductivity is more about heat than it is about electricity. And again, this idea of malleability or shaping, we can shape the metals into the shapes that we want them to be. So aluminium, which is also very light, copper, stainless steel are all used in cookware and cutlery because of these two important products of malleability primarily, and for those that are going to be used for cooking, also the fact that they're very good conductors of heat. Now, some metals are unreactive or chemically stable, and a couple of good examples of those are gold and silver. The other thing about those is they are also very shiny, and yet they still have these abilities to either be pulled into a wire, ductility, or shaped, malleability. And that means we can use them for producing jewellery, from very simple studs to complex crowns and things like that. So gold and silver have been used for long throughout history as the basis of a lot of jewellery, and a lot of wealth was based on the acquisition of gold. Non-metals are poor conductors of electricity. While metals are good conductors for both heat and electricity, non-metals are not so good, which means we don't want to be using them for cookware or for wires, but we can use them for insulation. Particularly a lot of carbon-based products, including plastics, can be used to insulate electrical wires so that we can have plastic around our metal wires to keep us safe from the currents that are flowing within them, and also for cookware, for handles and things like that, so we can move our pots and pans around without actually burning ourselves. So this reverse property of metals in terms of conductivity is actually also quite a useful thing, but for a different purpose. And finally, just a quick word about fabrics. Because nonmetals are also poor conductors of heat, they prevent heat transfer, and that's very important in the manufacture of fabric materials. What do you think is one of the most common elements in most fabrics? Remembering that fabrics can come from two different places. Some fabrics, like cotton, come from natural places, and others are more synthetic. Nylon, for example, that comes from, that's actually produced by humans. I'm going to give you that answer when you ask me in class. Thanks for watching.